There's lots of studies to show that kids need to be exposed to STEM programs, STEM ways of learning. You don't tell them that's what you're doing at a very early age for them to be open to moving into these careers later on in life. Frankly, our biggest competition is the couch. Just getting people to leave their home. And then the second biggest competition, this is not my opinion, this is based off market research, are sporting events.
Hey everyone, it's Arick Wierson. Welcome back to another episode of Leverage Storytelling presented by Tunheim. And today I have the great Alison Brown of the Science Museum of Minnesota. Alison, thanks for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I look forward to our conversation.
So Alison, just for those who don't know, I assume most people seeing this are familiar with the Science Museum, but just for those that maybe tuning in from all over the world, we get people from Japan, from Australia, from Colombia, from Brazil, from Europe. Tell me a little bit about the Science Museum. Give me the 60-second elevator pitch.
Sure. The Science Museum is located in St. Paul, Minnesota, but we serve all 87 counties within the state with our STEM education programs. We were founded about 120 years ago, and our goal is to inspire everybody to see themselves in science and in STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and math. And our goal is that we use that as a way to improve our lives. That we know that science is a great way to solve problems and that we have a shortage of people moving into these careers. And STEM careers are going to grow 10 times faster actually, than all of their careers combined. And this is an important way for people to solve problems and inspire themselves to see themselves moving into the future.
Tell me a little bit more about the connection between all of the science-based companies. And there's a lot of them here.
Yeah.
In the Twin Cities and, in fact, around the state. I mean, you've got, on the healthcare side, you've got companies like Medtronic, and in food, you've got, General Mills, you've got 3M in technology, and the list goes on and on and on. Tell me a little bit about that relationship between the Science Museum and the private sector here in the state.
Yeah, I'd love to. So we have 17 Fortune 500 companies here, and all of them have some form of STEM based in them, and they're all innovative organizations. And we partner with them in finding ways to get more youth to move into these STEM careers because we are a state that is not growing at a large level. We had some growth in our state, but it's just a few thousand individuals. And we know that they need more talent moving into those areas, and they know that as well. They also know that they need more diverse talent because there's a lot of studies showing that when you have more diverse talent at the table, you actually have better solutions. And so they partner with us to help find ways to help kind of be a spark for kids to move into these careers. And you can't wait until high school. You can't wait until college. It's actually too late. There's lots of studies to show that kids need to be exposed to STEM programs, STEM ways of learning. You don't tell them that's what you're doing at a very early age for them to be open to moving into these careers later on in life.
Now, but the Science Museum is obviously a place where kids go to experience and interact with science and things of that nature. But at the same time, I think a lot of people don't realize that you have a pretty significant research arm,
yes.
Right? Tell us about that. Sure,
I'd love to. We actually were founded as a natural history museum. And so that's why we have scientists on staff doing original scientific research. And their focus is kind of on how did life get here and how we're going to keep it here. So we have scientists doing original scientific research. We also have a group of scientists at the St. Croix Watershed Research Station, which was founded in the 1980s. And then they're looking at watershed issues. So they do work all around the world because all of these systems are interconnected. And what we're trying to do now is really help everybody understand that they're behind those doors that may say staff only. And they care about science, but they also care about inspiring the next generation of scientists. And we're working to tell those stories more openly and in a better way because they're an inspiration for kids going into these careers as well. And they care about youth going into science. And that's one of their goals, along with they're doing their original research.
You talked about storytelling briefly, and obviously
Yeah.
That's part of the name of the show, and that's kind of what we focus on here is the art or sometimes I say, dare I say, the science of storytelling. Yeah. How good a storytelling machine is the Science Museum?
We are
A, B, C level? What kind of work are you doing?
well, I would say we have been a B level, or maybe even a C level at telling the story of our scientists. And we're working to become an A at telling those stories. And actually, the best person to tell the story is the scientists themselves. So Dr. Adam Heathcote runs our research station. And we just released a story that he told about how he was inspired to become a scientist. And it's a fantastic story. And so that, I think, is where we're moving our level up and how we tell our story, and actually how we have them tell their own story.
And who are you targeting with this messaging?
We are targeting adults. We want to inspire youth.
Adults that happen to sit in corporate
Sure.
positions that have money to spend on the Science Museum, those types of things?
Or adults to come visit.
Now, is there a lot of content at the museum for adults?
Yes. There's for kids and for adults. So maybe 20 years ago, half of our visiting groups were adult-only groups. And then we started really marketing.
So you have in other words, you have a lot of adult content.
Yes. And then
really, now that you should tell people about that.
Yes, we should.
Who knew that the Science Museum had adult content?
And it's fun. I mean, it's a great place. Yeah, I'm just passing right over that one. We do have Friday nights are a lot of sex themes to them.
Do tell. Now.
Well,
okay, put my drink down.
Yeah, because the world wouldn't keep moving on if we didn't have sex.
Mm-hmm.
There wouldn't be, we wouldn't have all these animals and these great fun things to talk about. So come on a Friday night.
Okay. So there is adult content. Okay.
Yes,
good.
there is.
All right, great.
Appropriate adult content, but yes, there is, and it's fun.
How is the Science Museum primarily funded?
A third of our revenues come through people who visit the museum. So it's their tickets, their memberships, eating at the cafe, the store. Our store is very popular. And then the next third is through what we call, in the lingo of nonprofits, earned revenues. We make exhibits for other museums, actually around the world, and that's actually a booming business for us right now. Mm-hmm. We travel exhibits, and we have parties. People can rent the museum and have a party there. So those are some of the earned incomes. That's a third. And the other third is various forms of contributed revenue. And that includes federal funding and state funding as well, and individuals, corporations, foundations, and income from our endowment. So a third, and a third.
As you look around the world and you look at other sort of science-based museums, who do you sort of benchmark off of?
We will look at the Boston Science Center. We do a lot of collaborations with them. We partner with Smithsonian, but they're a very different type of organization. California Academy of Sciences, which is where I came from when I moved here almost 10 years ago. There are a number of really wonderful museums. And the great thing with nonprofits is we share information. And we share what's worked well there, what may work here, and be a success for us also.
Let's talk about the word museum. I think that's a loaded word.
Yeah.
And it sort of conjures up this issue or this idea of something old and stodgy and maybe not sort of in line with kind of where consumer trends are right now. Have you ever thought about maybe rebranding what the institution is called?
Yes.
Would you like to break any news today of what the name is going to be?
I have no new news, but we are going through a branding process.
Has that started already?
Yes, it has. And the naming part would be later on within this process. I had a trustee, very smart trustee, who loved to talk about strategy, who said, talked about the name Science Museum of Minnesota. It's got a lot of cachet in it, a lot of history behind it. And I said, well, you couldn't have picked two worse words for naming something to kind of push people away, and that is science and museum, because people are afraid of science. Now, Minnesota's a fine word, I think. But so we will think about that.
But I agree with you. I agree with your premise. Science can be off-putting to some people, and certainly depending on probably more or less on your age bracket, museum may mean different things.
Yeah, and our goal is to, in a sense, turn the museum inside out so that the visitors can create their own experience. And we do a lot of community partnerships. Ultimately, how do we lose control a bit? Can't lose complete control, but how do we let the visitors take control of the museum in a thoughtful way?
In your mind, how much is the Science Museum, we're going to call it that for now, you haven't shared the new name.
No, there's no, we haven't started that process yet, so I'm not hiding
But how
anything.
much is it a physical location, or is it an ecosystem of things that are connected?
It needs to be an ecosystem of things that are connected. As I said, we reach all 87 counties. We go out and do work all around the state. We need to have a stronger presence online. And in fact, we're working to we've moved 5 different times in our 120-year history. We've had 7 different names during that 120 years. And,
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, and so when
What are some of the other names?
St. Paul Institute was one, and one might have been this. I can't remember them all. St. Paul Institute of Letters and something. I can't remember.
Well,
them
maybe
all.
Science Museum of Minnesota isn't that bad then. I guess.
Yeah, but those are probably in the 1920s or something. We moved to our current location almost 30 years ago, and so it needs to be refreshed. If you've ever lived in a home for 30 years, you know things have to change, and the family's
Believe me, I know
changed.
this month I've changed my furnace. Last month it was the water heater. I
Yeah.
know what you're talking about.
So it's and technology change. How do we get people? We were talking as we're coming, down the elevator. People are more likely to stay home, and that was a trend pre-pandemic, but it really accelerated during the pandemic. So how do we entice people to leave their homes? When they come, they have a great time with their family and friends. So we need to make certain our experience is one that is not just for the population of today, but for the population that's coming down the pipe. That, generative AI, I'm still trying to figure it out. It's going to be old technology for them. So we need to make certain we're relevant, we're exciting, we're immersive, we're engaging, and also online.
My daughter, for example, I woke her up this morning. She's in 3rd grade. And she's excited because tomorrow she's going to the Bakken Museum.
Oh, yeah, it's fun.
Talk a little bit about how you see the Science Museum versus the Bakken Museum.
Yeah, well, we
You compete? Are you
No.
colleagues? Are you just
We're
you happen
colleagues.
to be in the same state?
Yeah, we're similar areas, and we have more of a natural history bent than the Bakken does, but that's because of our founding. And they're very focused in their areas, so that's because of their founder. And they're kind of in a fun building, which probably has its challenges as they move forward, but it also is exciting. So it makes it a beautiful place to go to. So I think of them as companions and not competition. Frankly, our biggest competition is the couch. Just getting people to leave their home. And then the second biggest competition, this is not my opinion, this is based off market research, are sporting events. We're one of the most heavy regions for sporting events in the nation. Because collegiate, professional, sporting teams here, we just have so many, which people love, and it's a great way to get people together. And
Well,
bond,
I guess what you're really saying is you're competing for discretionary spending for families, and you're up against sporting events. You're up against a lot of different things.
Yeah.
When you say you're up against the couch, what you're also up against is Netflix.
Yeah.
And Amazon Prime and everything else.
DoorDash.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest headwinds that you think that the institution is facing right now?
Right now, declining attendance, and that is because of what's happening right now. People are afraid to leave their home. It has impacted us probably about 25% of our attendance decline since December, started in December. And that's the most recent headwind that we are facing.
Interesting. Yeah. And what in terms of just sort of macro headwinds, though, in terms of the economy?
Government funding, federal funding. We've been very successful at federal funding for a variety of programs at the Science Museum. And we lost about $6 million of funding starting last year. And then we lost some state funding. And that just kind of piled on top. So those two loss of funding sources were pretty dramatic and required us to make some staff reductions. And these are fantastic staff doing important work, but we have to work to balance our budget.
And talk about sort of what does your internal organization look like when it refers specifically to your storytelling capabilities in terms of your ability to get your message out there? You have dedicated staff. Do you work with outside firms? Is it a combination? How's that set up?
It's a combination. We've really invested in having more internal staff to work on getting our message out. And then we have external firms that we partner with as well to help support that work, that effort that we're doing.
And how would you evaluate kind of how you're doing on that front?
Very well. It's a big shift we made almost a year ago. And so we're really seeing
I mean, you made it on this podcast, so somebody must be working, right?
Yeah.
You
We're
kind of made it
excited
to
to
the
be.
top of,
We're excited to be here.
Listen,
Thank you for having us.
Great having you on the podcast.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
For Leverage Storytelling, I'm Arick Wierson. We'll see you next time.